to episode 98 of the Reptile Gumbo podcast.
I think next week on episode 99, I'm going to bring it in. I'm going to introduce people. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode.
You going to change it up after 90?
I think I am,
episodes?
just to be difficult.
It's not cool. I have a special guest lined up for episode 100.
Oh, cool. I haven't talked to you about that.
People have asked to have this guest back on. So,
okay. Cool.
They originally planned for next week, but then I realized 100 is the week after. So
there you go.
I know who it is.
Yes. So I moved them to 100.
Because you told me they were going to be on next week.
Yes. I lied to you. They're on in 2 weeks now.
I don't know.
You do.
Okay. I'll think about it.
All right. Want to do our sponsors?
I do. I sound super congested on here tonight.
I'll fix it in editing and make you sound great.
Will you? You
maybe.
lie. All right. If you are looking for a high quality PVC rack, look no further than Lone Star Reptile Racks. They offer a variety of sizes for all types of snakes, geckos, rats, and more. You can even order something custom. Shipping is available, or you can plan to pick up at a Herps Reptile show near you. Visit ellisreptileracks.com or reach out to Lone Star Reptile Racks and place your order today. Although they will not be in Oklahoma City this weekend.
No,
that's too far away. It's the other side of the globe.
So they will be at most Herb's Reptile shows.
Yeah, as long as you don't live 800 hours away.
correct.
That is true.
Is your microphone on?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
You just have to move it closer.
How about that?
There you go.
Much nicer. Yeah, so Longview will be your first one.
Correct.
And then Conroe's the week after that?
Correct.
Hold on. No one tell me.
We got a couple weeks off.
Shit, no, I don't know what it's
We got a couple weeks off.
Corpus.
And then it's Corpus.
It's at the end of February.
I should totally have looked at that.
But
All I know
We
is
have an
that-
ARBC before that.
We do.
Oh, yeah. So, we will be at NARBC.
And we have
We will be,
other things.
we'll be at the booth at NARBC next to Python and a Pear Tree. Our buddy Michael Pinnell is going to have a booth. We'll have it set up doing interviews. If you listen to us, stop by, talk to us. Maybe we'll have you on.
Please, that'd be great.
We're going to do a bunch of interviews there for the whole weekend and just hang out. I'm looking forward to it. I've never been to NARBC Arlington. I've been to Tinley, but I've never been to Arlington. Robert's lived here and he's never been to Arlington. So it should be fun. Looking forward to that. Come by, see us. We have a new giveaway for this month. I really like our giveaway this month. I mean, I like our giveaway a lot of months, but this one's really good. And it's another one that I'm upset that I can't buy because I can
I'll say, I'm sure you could buy
I can
it.
definitely buy it.
I bet they
but I
would not
can't
have
win
a
it.
problem with that at all.
So our giveaway this month is brought to us by the Howdies over at Focus Cube. It is it's their 36-inch by 18-inch replacement lid for their Exoterra glass enclosure. So if you have an Exoterra, you know it's a full screen lid. And if you're trying to hold in humidity, it's not the best. But they make a great PVC replacement lid, and it comes with a little screened-in area if you want to put a light on there. But also the great thing I think about it is it'll allow you to attach stuff to the inside. So if you want to attach like a small radiant heat panel to the inside of it, you can do that to the inside because it's PVC.
Mm-hmm.
So all you have to do is go over to our Facebook page, the Reptile Gumbo Facebook page. It is linked at the top of the page, and share it. Share that post. It's also on our Instagram. You can find that on Instagram. Share it on Instagram. But you share it, you're put in for the drawing. End of the month, we will draw a winner, and you'll win a Focus Cubed 36-inch by 18-inch replacement lid for Exoterra enclosure. So those of you that have the it's a 40-gallon, I think it's a 40-gallon breeder size Exoterra's front opening. It's the lid for those. So it's really awesome. Go check it out. You can also go check it out on their website, over on Focus Cube's website. They have a video where they kind of show you what it looks like, how it works, and all. It's got little notches for running wires out of it, or if you want to run like waterfalls or however you want to set it up. I think it would be great if you do dart frogs. Want to do a big dart frog enclosure inside of one of those 36 by 18s. It'll help hold in humidity because those big screen lids on those things just leak humidity like crazy. So go do that. Our other sponsors, Herps Reptile Shows. We talked about that. We talked about the Herps Reptile Shows. Go check them out. We may be at Longview. No, we're not going to Longview.
You have a test that day.
Oh, I do have a test that day. I won't be at Longview, but I'll be at Conroe. We'll be at Conroe. So come by, see us. But again, Robert will be at Longview. Come by, see him. And then, Wiregrass Exotics. They're moving. We talked about it.
They are.
There was a big thing coming. We talked about last week. There's a big thing coming. The big thing coming is they're moving.
We need to take our stockings down.
We didn't take our stockings down. Candy
Yeah,
in them?
Chris mentioned them to me last week.
There's
Yeah.
no candy in those.
My Christmas tree's still up in the living room because it makes me happy. So
Yeah.
there's that.
I could just, if we had purple and like purple and a yellow stocking, we could just do Mardi Gras stockings.
Oh,
And then, then the Mardi Gras fairy comes and puts beignets and like bowls of gumbo.
I could be down for that. I'm just saying.
I think I just created a great new addition to Mardi
You
Gras.
just created
The
a
Mardi
new
Gras
tradition
Fair-
in the
Mardi Gras
Lewis
Fair
family.
brings you gumbo and beignets. Sold. But yes, go check out everybody's over. They're still in Ozark, Alabama, but they are now on 231, the main highway that runs through 231. The only good thing about 231, besides Wiregrass Exotics being on it, is it leads you straight to Troy University, and the rest of the state can go to hell. Especially Alabama. You lost. Haha. So what?
It's been a great day.
I know it's
My Facebook feed's been so quiet. All those Alabama fans. Not really sure what's going on today. Bless them.
poor Alabama. Fuck them. So anything else going on before we bring our guest in? I think we have anything else going on this week. We talked about the giveaway. We talked about I wanted to make sure we talk about Arlington. I'm still looking forward to that. Have we gotten a hotel room for Arlington?
No, you haven't told me where.
Have you? Are we going to try to do it Airbnb? All
I
right,
believe so.
we will iron out those
Yeah.
details. I'm gonna say for anybody that does shows on a regular basis, check out Airbnb. Especially if you can get like two or three, if you have buddies that do shows.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, you can get Airbnb and it's nice. There's an actual kitchen, somewhere to hang out later on. It's
The only thing that ever stops me is that because you have to pay for them.
cleaning fees.
Well, no, you have to pay for them in advance.
Oh yeah, the damn cleaning fees.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do have to watch out for those.
They will kill you on that stuff.
Yep.
But I mean, other than like, I understand people won't stay at hotels where other people are staying. I get that. But sometimes the Airbnbs, you can find really nice ones for not that much if you look around. So, all right. So let's go ahead and bring in our guest.
Absolutely.
Let me pull them up on the screen. Our guest is Khai Phan from a lot of things, but the one everybody will probably know you from is the Monitor Keeping Podcast.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Nice to meet you guys.
Absolutely. We're excited to have you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were talking before we came on. Kai and I have been Facebook friends for 12 years. I know everybody's got those Facebook friends who they added them as a Facebook friend and then never talked to them, and they've been Facebook friends for over a decade. That was
you
Kai.
guys.
That was Kai. But like I would see his stuff pop up all the time. Like I know everything that's going on, but we never talk.
That is exactly how women with children feel with their friends that they used to have before they had children, because you watch their kids grow up through Facebook. So like you feel like you've just talked to them last week, even though you haven't actually spoken or seen each other in person in years.
Yeah.
So everyone out there knows exactly what you're talking about.
Well, we figured out we must have become Facebook friends from the old forum days on King Snake, because that's where he and I used to be on King Snake.
Or the
forum.
King Snake chat room.
I remember the King Snake chat room.
Were you in
Yes.
there? Yeah.
Yes.
Those are the old golden days. I
Y'all
really
are
miss them.
aging yourself right now.
I miss those days. 'cause
People are like, "What's a
things are much
chat
more
room?"
simpler. You know?
Yes, they
Yeah.
really were.
And I remember when you were real little, the chat room, the first thing you always wrote was ASL.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
I was just thinking about that the other day.
Katie, do you remember that?
I do
I
remember
was making sure you did
that.
that. You're looking at me like you didn't do that.
No, I was just thinking like I remember writing a paper in college explaining like why the Trix rabbit never got the cereal and the kids always got the cereal. Like
How does that tie into what we just said?
because it was simpler times and like
How did you
that
jump
was
that-
a concern.
Did you hurt yourself making that leap?
Look, I'm awake and I'm here.
Oh, by the way, for anybody that's like, I don't know, 25 and younger, ASL is age, sex, location. Every chat
that's
room.
what
Age,
you
sex,
ask somebody when you enter the chat room
Yeah.
or something.
Yes, you wanted to make sure you weren't being a
always
creeper.
lie. Everyone seemed to be 18.
Yep.
Everyone was 18, whether they were 55 or 12. But, oh,
So funny.
anyways, so I've been wanting to have Kyle. So you have the Monitor Keeping Podcast. Katie, you've listened to this one.
I have. I very much enjoyed the few episodes that I've listened to.
I forced you to listen to them on car rides.
Yeah, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. So it wasn't, I guess, you were driving, so you had control of the radio, but I enjoyed it. I could have tuned it out and read a book or taken a nap.
See, none of us keep monitors. Well, so I've had monitors, 2 monitors in the past, way before I should have owned monitors. I didn't know jack about them. So I had an Ackie before I knew they were called Ackies. Someone gave it to me as a spiny-tailed monitor. It's like, cool, I'll take this thing. I think I gave it away to somebody or something. Don't remember what happened to that one. And then someone gave me
that was like before our kid was
that was a
born.
while back.
Yeah.
And then someone gave me a blue tail monitor, which I was fucking not prepared for at all. That was a horrible idea. This
Yeah.
full-grown blue tail monitor that I remember it would get out of the cage because I didn't have the door secured properly, and it was what used to be the back porch, what became an enclosed room, an actual part of the house. So the one wall was brick, and that motherfucker would run straight across the wall, just back and forth when he'd get out. You just
He freaking loved that brick wall, though. I guess it was maybe a texture thing for him because it was different than the other walls in the room.
Yeah.
But he did. He loved that brick wall. I love lizards in general, and monitors are just so intelligent. We just do not have the time for monitors. And I feel like to do them justice, you truly have to have the time that you can dedicate to them.
Yeah. That's definitely true. I think it's just they're just so demanding every day, right? Just the typical work. They eat basically every day almost. And then they're so active, throwing around soil, climbing, all that stuff like that. And then that textured wall that you were mentioning, mine like they love hanging on like cork walls and hanging from stuff. So it's perfect example of what they want in their enclosure. It just reminds them of like a big tree trunk or something like that, or something they can scale.
It's the only lizard I've ever put a harness on.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would take it outside to let it go. But I mean, if I put it outside without a harness, it was fucking gone. I think it was fast.
Yeah.
And it would run back and forth along the brick wall in the house. Attached to a harness. It was like flying a kite along the house.
Yeah, my worst bite was from a blue tail monitor. It grabbed me in my middle finger. Man, I started crying. Like, the tooth is, I don't know if it's still in there, but there's definitely a bump.
Oh my gosh.
This was years ago too. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it wasn't even a full grown one. It was probably about 3 feet, and I was assessing like a nose rub that it had before it got to me, right? And so I kind of like took my eye off its mouth, and my hand was there, obviously trying to apply the silver cream right on the nose, and bam, it just grabbed my finger. Yeah, that was my part, my dumb part. I should have used like a chopstick or something like that, or a Q-tip to tap it rather than using my finger. But live and learn.
There you go.
Yeah.
We got a couple of people in the chat. Alana's here.
Ashley Howdy, she's got
Ashley Howdy is pumped that you're on the show tonight. It's
speaking of
great.
Focus Cube. Well, that's because she has the scariest monitor of all. It's that croc monitor. And then
it makes it look like a
she has
puppy
the black
dog.
dragon, the big black dragon that we're gonna make her come
they're
and bring in
a-
studio.
There are a lot of beasts. I stick with the medium-sized monitors.
There you go.
Yeah, that's it. And if you guys were getting back into it, there are even smaller monitors than Ackies that are available now. Yeah, I mean more readily. They were available then too, but obviously in very scarce numbers until people brought them over from like Eastern Europe and stuff like that through those channels, right?
those German Australian lizards.
I really like skinks. There's a very big variety of skinks out there.
Yeah, skinks are actually something that I've never, other than like sandfish, right? I've had some sandfish. I've never ventured into them, but I wanted to do other stuff other than egg layers, like the live bearing stuff that skinks do. Yeah, I want to have something like that as experience later on, and also the egg gluers too. I've only done egg layers.
I've like I said on here before. I want a blue tongue, but I definitely wouldn't breed them just because the breeding of blue tongue skinks scares the ever crap out of me.
They're nuts. I've seen some videos where they rip each other's arms and tails out.
Just like spin and rip a leg off. I'm like, what the?
No.
And then they'll also like they'll breed. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
How does that happen in evolution? That the evolutionary path is rip your fucking leg off, and we're still gonna have sex.
Worse. It's like worse than like rape. It's just straight torture.
Could you just imagine, like on your honeymoon, you just rip your wife's arm off, and then you still get to have sex at the end? Like that doesn't.
No, it doesn't compute in human human terms.
But it's not like it grows back. Like their leg is gone, so you just have a 3-legged skink and then some eggs.
Yeah, there's a bunch of wounds.
Camp Kennan got his
monitor. I was gonna talk about that.
back. Cops found his black dragon.
Yes, I was gonna bring that up. If anybody that watches
good.
Kennan Harkin, Camp Kennan on YouTube, he got his black dragon stolen, and I think it was another water monitor.
Yeah, it sucks. Like I love showing people my stuff, right? But I wish I can be so much more. I mean, I'd love to just be like, hey, come over, because that's the type of like personality that I'd love to have. But I just know that me inviting too many people over, it just opens up a can of worms that you don't want to, you know.
It's a fucked up world.
I just saw where Eric
Yeah.
Vogel, he's a venomous keeper. I think he lives in Michigan. His local newspaper, no, in Ohio, his newspaper saw that he got a permit to be able to keep dangerous species. And they ran a story with every animal he has listed.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And then everybody else in that county that has that permit with every animal they have listed
Okay,
too.
great. Now you know where to go rob.
Right.
That is not okay.
Yep.
That's fucked up.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
there's no other thing where that would be okay. It wouldn't be like, oh, you got 5 kids. All right, we're gonna list all their ages,
Can
where
they
in the house their
legally
bedroom
do that?
is.
I mean, obviously they did it. I don't know if they.
Yeah, if it's depends on a permit. If the permit requires them to have a permit per whatever, you have to list them. Then
Yep.
yeah, it's a public record.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
That's
Pretty
fucked
crazy.
up. Yeah. So anybody that didn't follow Kenan Harkin, it was his black throat. Thank you, Dale. The black throat is the one that's still missing, and then his black dragon. And it's crazy because the black dragon was to get to it. So if you've ever watched any of his videos, he lives on this amazing piece of property. But to get to the black dragon, you had to go through one gate into another gate to get into where he has some big old iguanas, I think rhino iguanas. And then you had to go to the cage and get into the cage and go through that door to get to the black dragon. So they passed up the rhino iguanas. They went all the way across his property. They passed all of his turtles and tortoises. And they took a black throat, which was on a cage just outside to that, adjacent to it, and the black water of the black dragon.
Yeah,
Man.
that's nuts. There's been quite a few cases now. Specifically down south and in Florida, right, where people are just getting broken into, and like Tom Crutchfield. They actually did quite a bit of damage.
They killed
animals.
it. Yeah, they killed stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty heartbreaking. Yeah,
What the hell is wrong with people? Like,
I don't know. I mean, there was a good lesson like that. I guess people were trying to teach, like, there's this stuff like we have. It's awesome, whether it's something simple or whatever. But people are kind of envy you because they don't have it. Maybe just work hard just to get it. That's like what all of us have kind of put in, where we kind of are earning all these animals. We've paid for, worked hard for. A lot of us have saved, ate ramen noodles for a while.
I was going to say, for some animals, you've saved for a very long time to be able to afford them.
I worry because I've got my sulcatas outside. I worry all the time that someone's going to drive by, see them, and go, huh, I want that tortoise, and go get it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's nothing I can do. They want to hop the fence and grab the tortoise. They're going to hop the fence and grab the tortoise.
Yeah.
At least with Kenan's situation, I think he's learned he's gonna lock stuff now. I mean, he didn't have locks on any of his cages.
It sucks because he's such a. Why would people do that to somebody and all their animals? Oh man.
So my dad was talking about the listing the guy's reptiles. He said it was also done in New York, where a newspaper listed every permitted gun owner in the city.
Yeah, that happened a couple of years ago.
That's fucked up too. But I don't know. That whole thing, I saw that, and then I saw the video today where he got it back. He couldn't tell much detail on it, but they pretty much know where it came from, where it went, and now he's hopefully he'll get his black throat back. But so it was somewhat happy ending story, but that's messed up. I was still surprised no one grabbed any tortoises. I mean, it's very easy to grab tortoises as you go. My dad said, at least the tortoise will piss all over them. That is true. You got to pick them up.
That's probably why people didn't grab tortoises anywhere.
They may have grabbed a tortoise and then just pissed all over them. Like, fuck it, I'm going for the lizards.
Yep.
Well, you notice they didn't go after the croc monitors on Kenan's property. No. They'd still be in there, just like with missing fingers.
Yeah.
Ontario, Canada had a black dragon that sells for $5,500.
No, read that again.
I'm from Ontario, Canada, and the black
and
dragon
the black
sells.
Not he has one that sells.
And they sell. They're not cheap here either. I mean,
they're not cheap. They've gone up, and they're, not to say the poor man's Komodo dragon, but they grow up to look like a Komodo dragon. So
and they take good Instagram pictures. That drives their price a lot because they take really great Instagram pictures, and everybody goes, "I want that."
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody's a new dream pet lizard currently. It's one of the best. It's one of the top rated. Yeah,
which is crazy because I remember growing up thinking, in the hobby with water monitors will fucking rip you up, and those and like Nile monitors, and they were for sale cheap in pet stores.
Yeah, like $100.
Yeah. And you're like, who the hell's why is that thing only $100? And it gets, I mean, they get huge. I think people see these little tiny water monitors, they don't realize they get fucking big.
Back then they came in for $20, $25. Like if you bought 50 or 100, they were very cheap. So dirt cheap.
Well, that's the thing is they were coming in. Like the black dragons aren't coming in black dragons. These people are producing them. So now like
they're producing them now.
They're much
still
friendlier.
Wild caughts that come in though.
Really?
There's still a lot of genetic diversity that comes in. And then as far as like black water monitors, there's a whole variety of them, going from like I guess you would say the Togiana species from Togian Island, right?
Yeah.
That's still a very black water monitor, but it's a smaller variety. It's not exactly the black dragon though. And then the black dragon itself has quite a few degrees on when they're born. Some are born with the typical Salvatore pattern, but you can definitely tell that it's blacked out, right? And then some are born pitch black, and then they also get quite a bit larger. And so people are always debating back and forth between what's the right one, because there's quite a few people that are breeding I could say different grades of black Salvatore, right? So there's ones that have a kind of a brownish pattern, and then the spots still that you can see, and they get darker and darker as they age, and then some are even born completely black. And then there's size differences between the quite a few different ones. Kind of sets like maybe a locality difference or something like that from a different place, and then it just marks the different characteristics that pertain to that animal, that size, and everything like that.
So are Nile monitors still fairly big in the hobby, or have water monitors, since they're more common, taking their place and people have backed off on Niles?
I think it's just the Niles have still caught that rap where they're sort of a difficult species to work with, that you can get them kind of dime a dozen, so people don't really hold a lot of regard to them. So, and then at the same time, not a lot of people really put effort into breeding them. And then when you breed them, your comparison price from what you need to pay and charge for everything, right? Because they cost so much. In when you compare to a $50 lizard sold at the show, it's hard to sell your animal for $600 when
well, it's kind of like Savannah monitors. People have built like, you can still get Savannah monitors super cheap, so you don't have a ton of people breeding them.
Yeah,
and they've been in the hobby forever.
Yeah, and then they're also imported by the droves, so you get a whole bag, just like ball pythons are imported, by the thousands, and you can buy a whole sack on unopened sack, right? They sell that, they market that. And same thing with the Savannah bag and the Nile bag and whatever other animal that comes in a sack.
Crawfish. When you said that, I immediately thought crawfish.
I actually buy my crawfish from Louisiana Crawfish, right?
Yeah,
they come in a sack.
They do.
I have quite a few of them in the front right now. Just
nice.
They're sun baking sacks.
So funny. Like you can tell where my brain is, because I'm like, season. I have king cake downstairs, which is actually pretty good king cake for Texas king cake. I was impressed. And I'm ready for crawfish. So yeah. I did have something to contribute. So I know with like with my Mexican black king snake that I have, I feel like the larger she gets, the more iridescent she becomes. Like the black is almost an iridescent black. Are the monitors like that too?
Yeah, okay. In a way, it's quite different. They start off looking one color, right? So like, let's say even Komodo dragons. We know large Komodo dragons to be like that dusky brown color, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when they're born, they're very vibrant. They've got a lot of spots and yellows and greens and oranges, and you can tell there's a whole pattern, but that all dissipates. And I guess many reptiles go through that. I think it's called ontogenic,
Ontogenic.
where their patterns just go from one thing and then ends up a whole different look, and that's their formal, evolved state or whatever.
Right.
It happened to me
Yeah.
too. I used to be young and skinny.
and then you're in your evolved
I
state.
got-
Now
I
I'm in my
Quite a bit more gray than I used to have. So
probably my final form.
I know we must not be the form for Antoine because he's only got eyes for James
Right.
tonight.
It's fine, Antoine. I'll see you in Arlington.
I was just listening to his episode with Chris today.
Oh, did
Yeah,
That's
when
good.
Chris called me out for talking shit about Beaumont.
yeah. I mean, it's fine. Antoine shouldn't have that episode. He didn't outright win it. They just
Oh
kinda
my
gave it to him.
gosh.
But whatever, you know.
Move on,
There we
James.
go.
Whatever,
For those of you
Antoine,
that are
but-
listening and are not live or can see the chat, James is currently wearing an In Blue Reptile Podcast shirt.
Yeah, that podcast came out last week.
It did, but it's a lovely green color, which is actually one of my favorite colors on him. And Antoine agrees. Said the green was bringing out his eyes. He's such a stud muffin.
Oh, I know.
Then he said 10 of 10 would smash.
So let's get into monitors that Khai does keep, because I know that you keep some of the cooler, the mid range, like 3 to 4 foot type stuff, right?
Yeah. I also keep some Kimberly rocks as well, which are kind of like 24 to 30 inches. I guess almost 3 feet. They're mostly tails and they're still kind of small. Yeah.
So you're keeping most of your stuff, though, is more the arboreal things, right? Other than kind of Kimberly's, but
everything is quite arboreal. They kind of do everything except for the Kimberleys don't do too much water, but the mangroves, which I have quite a bit. I probably have about like 15 mangroves.
jeez.
All different types of varieties from. They're under one complex, so I'm just gonna vaguely speaking, basically just kind of all just say mangroves as a general classification for all of them. But I have Varanus coli and I have Solomon Island indicus. I have quite a few different other random ones that I bought, and I'm just trying to see what they will look like. So they're like unknown localities, but they're all considered mangrove monitors. Well, they're so diverse and widespread from, like, I would say, like the Philippines and that part all the way to Australia. So it's a pretty big gap for them. And then every single island, they're kind of a little different. They're actually if we get really into it, they're probably one of the coolest, as far as what they can do. I've been able to start my whole collection in one group with just one animal because it was parthenogenic, and then use it to breed back. And then I make a whole bunch of more babies.
That's cool.
Yeah. So they're island hopping lizards, and the science behind that is, I guess, if they were to go and land on a random island and they're by themselves, they can essentially populate that island by themselves. And I was able to prove that recently with a few clutches, because that baby is now grown. He's a 3-year-old male, back to the mom, and he's fertile.
Oh, that's awesome. Because I know there's always that idea that Partho babies can't reproduce. I mean, because Komodos are famous for doing it in zoos, having Komodos have Partho babies, which falls along the same line as yours. They're island species, which would fall on the same line of just popping up on islands and not having anybody to mate with, and let's make some babies.
So if you're not a monitor person and you have no clue what this Kimberly rock monitor is, and you Google it, you actually have to put monitor after the name, because if you don't, you get this really cool Aboriginal
Kimberly rock,
art.
Yeah, which is also cool. And that's
It is super cool. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, maybe this is where they're from.
Yes,
Um,
it is.
Yeah,
and-
that's where
but-
they're from. It's I have like I went to Nevada, right? I didn't even go to Las Vegas to go to the strip. We went herping. I took a bucket of red sand,
Nice.
that the red soil that's like on the road. I was like, I can't get that anywhere. I have to take
love
some.
it.
Yeah, and then I took some home, and I use it in their enclosure now because I'm trying to resemble, that whole rocky outcrop orange mountain look. Yeah.
You just needed a picture of you, the sand, and that old, there's always I went to whatever, and all I got was this t-shirt. It's like, I went to Vegas, and all I got was this sand.
Look, you're not, as long as you don't have anybody like show up at your house because that was really illegal or something, and now
Take
you've
that
mentioned it
sand.
on the podcast. Like, I mean, my mom takes rocks from just about everywhere we
stop her from
go.
taking rocks.
And
Like parking lots.
she,
Like, stop taking
yes,
rocks.
I'm like, Mom, you do not need this rock. And she's like,
Yeah.
but I do. And Yeah.
They don't need that soil.
I mean, yeah. Like as long as this podcast isn't going to turn into like, somebody knocking on your door for that.
It's all right.
But
My animals are happy. I'll take it.
your priorities are set. But I was looking at the Kimberly Rock Monitor, and it's really cool looking. The tail, the striped tail is really neat, and
it's like a zebra, right?
It is.
Yeah,
It is. Yeah. It's a really cool. And then a picture for this Pilbara Rock Monitor popped up.
Also awesome.
And it's like got some of the prettiest reds and oranges I think I've ever seen on a lizard. And this is, I'm sure that it probably falls in like some type of a cousin or whatever. But when I think of monitors, this is going to age me.
You're going to say Goanna?
I was from Rescuers Down Under.
Well,
like
they're Australian monitors.
She's the one I think of. And I think
Joanna?
Yeah, of Joanna, who was a Goanna.
Joanna.
Yeah, but that's who I think of when I think of monitors. I'm sure there have been others in film.
We were at the zoo.
But she's the one I think of.
We were at the zoo a couple weeks ago, and we were at the Komodo thing, and I heard a guy behind me, an Australian guy behind me, go, "Yeah, it's like the Goannas we have back home." And I was like, I turned around and said, "Those are cool too." Those are neat. And then like Parentes, those are really freaking cool.
Yeah.
I'd love to go to Australia and just see like all the monitors.
Yeah. We talked about Australia at school today.
Places I don't want to fucking go because it's so damn.
And you know what's crazy? They have them like, I don't know, maybe what's a really common little fence lizard that you have, or something that's super common on the road, right? Theirs is just as common out there. Like
that's so crazy.
Well, that's why like carpet pythons are like rat snakes. You see carpet pythons in their fucking houses and toilets and
look at what's the name that used to work for Nerd, just moved.
Rob.
He said he just wants to come find a broadband water snake.
Yes.
And I'm like, shit, we get tired of looking at them.
Yeah.
Down here.
We talked about Australia today.
Rob moved.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know Rob from way back then too. He actually just helped me with the clutch of mangroves that I hatched. I was having, I don't know, weird trouble. So not all of them are. Most of them were fertile. A couple of eggs were, I would say, like died in egg partial way through, right? Through the incubation process. So maybe about like 5 or 6 months in, the egg just went black, right? And so it kind of started to smell. And then when it goes black inside, it's essentially dead. And then it starts to obviously decay because the heat is slowly cooking it, right? And so it has this sheen over it. And then I typically already can pinpoint that it's a dead egg. So I'll take it and I'll cut it. And so I cut it, pulled the pink baby out. So it wasn't even developed its colors yet. And typically they develop the colors at the end, but it was just this fully formed pink baby mangrove monitor. And so I was having trouble with the clutch I felt. And then Rob actually helped me through the process of pipping a couple of the eggs and letting them hatch out on their own.
That's cool.
Yeah, because I was afraid that they'd drown or have mishaps and stuff.
So the one thing I'm assuming is different. Most of your stuff is the like endo type lizards, monitors and stuff. But then you got the Kimberly Rocks. That care's got to be drastically different, right? Kimberly Rocks got to be much warmer, aren't they?
So generally, what it is, or what are you guys used to keeping? So that way I can kind of. What do you?
I do snakes. I've got boas and sand boas and stuff like that.
All right, so you can kind of keep your warm spot pretty, I would say, designated in one little area, right?
Yeah.
And all right, so with the monitors, it's kind of just a bunch of more different options, just because they do so much more, And if I can apply all of those or majority of them in one setup, from a very hot range to a very, very cool range, and give them the option to choose, I kind of keep them all the same. And so there's actually no real difference at all. Now, to kind of go back, even though I do keep some of the Indo stuff and Australian stuff, they share the same bodies of water almost on where I keep them. So where there's Papua New Guinea, right? And then obviously Australia is just right there. There's only a real waterways between them. There's not that far, right? And then I keep the animals on the surrounding islands underneath and around Papua New Guinea. and so they actually can, and come to Australia. So that whole general area is very, very close together still. It's not
Gotcha.
drastically far apart like Australia and Africa, right? Which are totally different type of monitors.
Oh,
We can
yeah.
get into that as well. So, but
I forgot I had a Savannah monitor at one point. That was a nightmare too. That was a $20 Savannah monitor on a table at a cheap reptile show going, I want this. Horrible idea. And it wasn't even a baby. It was like already like a foot and a half long. It never wanted to be touched, and it was never going to happen. It was like, no, I'm good. You can leave me the fuck alone.
Yeah, those guys are kind of hard to breed in captivity. All the African monitors prove to be pretty difficult. Even the people that are trying, that are very well skilled, have a hard time.
That's a lizard I think does not get kept right. I mean, I know it does not get kept right. I mean, because that's a lizard that likes to dig, and most people do not give their Savannahs 3 foot of dirt or 4 foot of dirt to be able to really dig a burrow when it's full grown.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing that some people are still learning in the hobby, where especially in America, some other countries have that already kind of tuned down, where they're able to heat up the amounts of soil, right? Not that it isn't done in America, it's just now being more taught, or it's beaten into people more as females are dying, because they don't really grow past a year old. Once they reach sexual maturity, people don't allow them to have deep soil to lay. They basically get egg bound and die. And so those practices are being taught a lot more now, that's where I kind of wanted to continue with my habitat setup a little bit, right? On the Kimberleys or the mangroves, even though they live from two different types of habitats, I still basically keep them pretty warm and humid. And that amount of mass soil that I have, or sandy soil, or that rocky stuff that I got from Nevada, right? I just have it moist, and I heat it up, and it develops humidity on its own without having me spraying the enclosure over and over just to keep up with ambient humidity or something like that. So the moist soil kind of generates, and then obviously it goes upwards and into the enclosure and saturates the air.
I've seen some people they'll build either a kind of like a false bottom under the soil or a false back wall, and they'll run like heat cable through there to try and heat up the soil that way too, to heat it from below, or at least back heat it from the back of the cage.
Yeah,
because you're not going to penetrate all the way to the bottom with your heat lamp, no matter what it is, if you really give them a deep soil.
Right. And that's what I basically do. I add large heat pads like cane mats and dog blanket. Yeah, and I attach them to the sides of the enclosures on the outside. I also kind of made a PVC. It's kind of like an insert, or it's very thin. It looks like a chessboard, and you insert a heat pad into it and slap it against the wall. These are for the smaller enclosures, because the cane mats, they don't make them smaller than 18 by 18. Yeah. And I slap those in for my dwarf monitor cages, because they're only so big, and 3 foot of cane mat, or even 2 foot of cane mat, kind of takes up too much nesting area when I really only want to hone it in on one area, so I don't have to dig through the whole shit.
See, that's so the Howdies at Focus Cube built an awesome monitor cage for Sean Gray at his new Herbst Reptile Shop, and it's got probably like 18 inches of soil, but
so he can tell you exactly how much is in it, because he put it in.
Because he put it in there, yeah. He
so
went
he
over
can
there.
tell you.
It probably hurt his back too.
Yeah,
Getting it out of there. But it was cool. We were in there the other day, and they were both out, and I was looking. I was like, man, what the fuck's going on with that monitor? And then I realized it was the male, and he was walking around with his tail all like cockeyed to the side. And then at one point he crawls up on the rock next to her and like tries to shove his tail like right up next to her. I was like, oh, okay, that's what he's doing. I was like, he's just walking around for her. But that whole thing is cool. It's got the big rocks, and they can come lay underneath the heat. And then he did like sewage pipe to run down into the dirt to keep the tunnel. And then like there's like a hamster, like a guinea pig igloo that's down there that he packed the sand around to hold the shape of the.
He's trying to figure out whatever way he can and make it fortified. That's exactly what I do too. It's tricky, because she'll lay, like, if something is kind of propped like this, she'll lay right there.
Yeah.
And that way it's secure. She feels like it can hold, it'll stay constant, and it's probably something that is catching warmth throughout the day. So yeah, I have all my warm generating areas. I have like stuff piled up 45 at a 45-degree angle against it, and then I just pack a bunch of dirt underneath it.
So speaking of cages, I want to speak of one that I've seen pop up, and now I'm starting to see pop up in snake groups. And I'm assuming in the monitor hobby, it's I know a lot of people do it, but it's probably frowned upon, which are grow tents. I don't understand how grow tents became a go-to caging.
Okay, so for those of us that don't know, what is a grow tent? Because I'm going to Google it. You can explain it to you.
Well, I guess we'll explain it. So a grow tent is just it's to grow plants, plants. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
very green.
I mean, that's when you said grow tent, I imagine like an indoor greenhouse or something like that.
It's basically a little thing that you can have in your room. What it does, ideally, what it does well is hold humidity and somewhat structurally sound only with the frame inside of it.
I was about to say, this thing looks like it could fall apart if you blow on it hard.
Looks like
and so it is, for me, it is real sketch. For maybe sharp claws and
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, but also like just monitors in general are fucking assholes in enclosures. Like they're ripping they're ripping bulbs out, pulling wires. The wire that goes from the socket to the wall is only 4 inches, and he's grabbing it and just pulling it, just ripping bulbs, just everything. And so the way you have to set lamps and stuff in there, it's very, very sketchy with where the cords are all going. For me, I have to really be, because everything is going on. I try to be in control, and I know, just what's going on with all the cords. I can easily get to them. Everything is pretty easily accessible, and it's kind of tucked away neatly and everything like that. With the grow tent, it's a little bit where you have to jig the wire up, have it come over, drop the lamp down, things like that, or have the lamp kind of attached to the frame that's inside of the grow tent, right? Yeah, so it's tricky. I don't really recommend them for monitors. Maybe like a smaller lizard that's not going to tear it up. I can see it working, but yeah, I don't know, man.
Maybe I just need to see this in person, because I'm scrolling through these.
It's ridiculous.
I'm scrolling through these pictures on Facebook, on Google, and I'm like, why would anyone ever put an animal inside?
It's cheaper than a cage.
Yeah, it's cheaper than a cage. It's like $50, $60, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking at the wrong ones, because some of these are like $300.
So you can go spend $50 or $60, and then when they destroy it,
and then when it rips through it, and you find your monitor running up your wall.
For me, they won't, but you're already out $50 or $60.
Well, that's I'm just picturing. I had that blue tail monitor, and if it tries to climb up the side of a grow tent, it'll rip straight through it like Freddy Krueger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they come like I've seen some of them.
Huge.
Like, they come kind of thick. They're not as like tenty as you think. Like a flimsy tent was just one little ply of whatever that material is. It's kind of There's insulation within. The thing. So
some of these are hardcore.
Yeah, they're not as flimsy as I thought they'd be.
One or two use it the way that I thought we would need. They had cages. They just basically used the grow tent as a small snake room or reptile room.
Yeah,
put the cages in there,
right,
to help control humidity.
Yeah,
that's kind of cool.
And there was a person that I guess went through a winter storm. Their electricity went out, and so they had this grow tent, and they just shoved all their stuff inside of it, closed it, and it conserved its heat within that tent, and then kept their animals alive. That's pretty cool, I have condensation issues with my incubator sometimes, where the inside of the containers condensate because my temperature in the room fluctuates a bit, and so what that does is it creates pressure change, and then the containers basically just sweat. To control that, what I've had to do is put a bunch of thick that purple insulation that they sell at Home Depot, right? I just encased my incubator around it to try to conserve the temperature rather than having cold air hit it so much. But I was thinking about having a little tiny grow tent, the smallest one available, and shoving my incubator in there.
That could be
during
cool
the winter time to do that. So I mean, I guess it's not a total loss of an idea, but
But as a straight cage, it just seems
yeah,
crazy.
no.
I
And
saw it in a
especially for
boa
a big
group.
monitor. No.
I saw it in a boa group, and I'm like, I'm not putting a boa in a grow tent. Someone
Yeah.
joked about it, like that grow tent would move across the room. That boa would just end up rolling that thing across the room as it moves. And then Dale Heitman says in the chat that there's vents on the floor level of the things that the lizards can get out of.
Yeah, like you can shove your arm in it, and then you have to kind of tape those off. It's
By the time you rig it up to do what you need it to really do, you
yeah,
should just bought a cage or built a
Right.
cage or something.
and the cage is just much more sturdier. You can do much more in it, attach more stuff. It'll hold soil without bowing, things
Yeah.
like that. Yeah,
That's one thing I think people just don't realize with lizards too. It's just the amount of soil. We talked about it earlier. Your normal 4x2 by 18 foot PVC snake cage isn't going to work because you can't do a soil level that's good enough for really any monitor lizard you plan on keeping.
yeah, it's a tough one. You'd have to jig like a little nest bin in there, shove a nest bin in there, so they actually at least have the option to do that. I have some very short cages that are only like about 18 inches tall, 24 inches tall max, and that's what I have to do for one of them. It's a male's vacation cage. Whenever he's done breeding and the female I feel like needs a break, that's where he goes. And instead of having a fully decked out cage, I just have a little soil option for him to do his thing.
I've seen some they take the PVC cage and then they put it on top of a big plastic tub. And then they just cut a hole in the bottom of the PVC cage, a hole in the tub, and the tub is where all the dirt is. And so they can go down and they can dig in that. And it's basically they're just attached. And that way you can take your normal cage and still use it because there's a whole other level below it that actually holds the dirt. And so I figured that would work too if I decided to. I could build a stand. That stand technically holds dirt, and then build the cage on top of the stand, and then I don't have to have the two different things.
I've seen crazy ideas. I've seen picture this, just your normal cage, and then the guy, because obviously the lizard needed the option. All he did was just have a hole drilled in his cage, shoved a little drainage tube in, sealed that up, and then now it just leads into a bin that the animal can do whatever it needs to do. And he shoved a heat pad on it, and it became a nest bin. And it's an exterior soil option. It's kind of weird. It's not in the cage, but it's a connection and part of the cage. And it gave the animal the option to do what it needed to do. But if you were to have it in that snake size enclosure that didn't allow the soil, then you'd be stripping the animal of the necessities that it needed to do. Yeah. Especially if it was a female that needed to lay.
So do you keep any of your stuff outside? Because you've got the weather there, right? That you could do it.
I have
the space.
Very, very, very finicky weather. Not that it's bad, but it gets hot here, and it gets hot for several months. So probably already like into June, I'm at a good 100 degrees, 90 something degrees, and it's for me, it's not the best and not ideal for what I want to do. Don't get me wrong, my monitors will probably love it outside, but I don't have control. Of everything that goes on, temperature wise, nest bin temperature. I can't really hook up my electricity stuff out there to control that, so it'd be at the mercy of, if it was a cold week and she needed to lay, that'd be setting myself up for failure during that part. I do a lot of, since I have so many females, there's always a busy month or a very stressful, like where I'm mother goosing everybody and stuff like that, and trying to make sure that they're laying, and it's 1 week this, the next week this female, and then another one this female, and so it's always revolving stress levels, up and down, up and down, up and down, of pulling eggs and making sure that female goes through the whole process correctly. And so it's better for me to have them indoors.
So are they a once a year breeder for you, or are they breeding every so often or so many months?
I've only really been breeding monitors for about 2 to 3 years. I've been keeping them for a long time.
Yeah.
I had my first Partho one, but that's not actually really breeding, right? It's just getting them to lay the egg, and so I only did half the work, essentially, just hatched it. And then I started breeding them more, got more animals. My Kimberleys became mature, and then I started, everything just started to flow. But they will lay every 30 days.
Oh, wow.
If I let them.
Holy
That's
crap.
got to be murder on their body over, say, a year or two.
Yeah, they'll lay every 30 to 40 days, 60 days for some females. And then, just from what the room goes through, there's so much going on. And females will get triggered by this pair doing this. She'll lay her own clutch, so there's just a lot going on. And
they're like human women. They all sync together.
Yeah. So
it's so crazy. So at any given time, how many eggs do you say that you have
in my baiter?
Yeah.
At a real heavy time last year was probably about 35 eggs.
That's a lot of lizards. I'm just I just can't picture. I can picture that with corn snakes. They're small and you can put them in little tiny tubs and they hatch and whatever, and put them off in a rack. But I'm just thinking, when you have 30 baby lizards that you're gonna have to take care of,
a lot to feed.
And then how long are you keeping them before you sell them?
he
Man,
could just keep the whole clutch.
I try to do
other
people bonding thing, right? And
yeah.
So because I'm super particular. You may never meet somebody with with rules.
I know, I'm pretty sure I live with one that is just as particular.
I just where they go, people have to build a rapport with me first before I sell them the animal. I have to kind of get a feel of what you are as a person, and then you have to show me your enclosure before I even sell you the animal, just because of what I'm selling. Awesome. I really love, but at the same time, they hatch out in spurts. So luckily I'm not hatching out 30. It's 8 here, 5 there, 3 here. And that's typically how the averages are in my clutches, maybe 3 to 8 eggs typically. But the females can just go and go and go. I typically don't let them. I probably let them do about 2 to 3, and then I'll cut them off. So maybe after 3 months of breeding, I'll really lighten up her feeding. Try not to get her to trigger so much. I'll feed her bugs rather than fatty eggs and chick parts and pinkies and stuff like that. And keep her from cycling so much. Gotcha. That's what gets them going so much, when you get them so much protein and fat bombs rather than leaner foods.
So, talking about food, I want to go into our question that I talked to you about, that we posted on our Facebook group this week. You came up with how self-sufficient is your collection, based around feeding and taking care. For most people, I say most, a lot of our people are state people that comment on here, and so they're breeding their own rodents if they're self-sufficient, which is something I could never do. Yeah. I do want to get to a little bit of some of the stuff you breed yourself for your stuff, because to me it's crazy as well. But some of the answers we had was Chris Sexton says he does okay in the peak of a small hatchling season, but it's borderline most of the year, because it's easier to get small food than it is to have to raise up rodents. Isaac Kyle said, I'd love it if the feeders were self-sustaining, but alas, my feeders can't breed fast enough for the demand, which I think is a lot of people's problem when it comes to trying to do that. I couldn't do rodents. Y'all have just a few rodents in your garage, and that's too many. I couldn't do any.
Yeah, I'd like to just not have them too, but
he's tried to talk our child into doing it. He was like, you could do it this way, and you could do it this way, and you could
raise
sell.
Mice for my
he was like, I'll pay you for them, and da 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 da. And she was like, I'm good, and she totally wasn't buying that at all.
Yeah, and it can go to even sort of out of the box stuff. You can go to some field, rake up some leaves, bag them up a little bit, and sell leaves.
Yeah,
because people buy leaves, man.
I've done that.
she did that for a while.
I have a friend who just bought a new piece of property, and it's 5 acres, and he went out there and it's got 4 magnolia trees on it.
Nice.
And he went out and filled up 4 contractor bags of magnolia leaves, took them home, cleaned them all up, broke them down into the the retail bags and made like $1,500 on fucking leaves.
Yeah.
I think we get it because we're kind of from an era where things weren't so automated back then. We had to kind of just really work with what we got, right? And learning how to be self-sufficient and utilizing just what's around you is like our manual, like it's like we just used whatever. Then it could have been a bucket or a bin or I was using like a hat for a snake hide one time, just whatever. Toilet paper tubes, right? We've learned how to recycle toilet paper freaking tubes.
That's my king snakes, my Mexican black king snake. That's her hide.
Yeah.
And she loves it.
It's the simplest thing. It doesn't cost anything. You're recycling something and it works. It might not look so appealing like some $20 hide or whatever, but a $20 hide couldn't do the same thing as the tube did.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and like for monitors, there's more stuff now reptile wise. It's definitely made for reptiles. When you talk about monitors, a lot of monitor keepers had to be, all right, let's make it. We'll just make it ourselves because there isn't something really made for that situation.
I'm going to Home Depot every day. I take the wife with me every Sunday because it's like our little couples thing where we're just going and I, it's my slowest day before I have to really grind on the typical, beginning of the week. And we just hit there in the morning, grab what I need to grab, so that way I can do it throughout the week, and just tackle things, build things, little props, the drainage tubes. I buy drainage tubes for my monitors because I don't feel like buying a $40 cork tube,
Well, that's you can always tell reptile people because I'll walk into like the Container Store or Lowe's or something. Like, I could do this, I could do that, and I'm so looking at things that I want to use for reptiles, and in no way were made for reptiles at all. But there's always like, I could use it for that. It would work for this
all the time.
The Container Store is my favorite place.
They know who I am there now.
Yes.
Because
I don't even need the lid.
Right.
Oh my God.
At the Target by my shop. When I walk in, the lady that works in that department, she sees me and she just starts grabbing lids off and throwing them in a basket because she knows I'm buying all the 28 quarts and all the 6 quarts on the shelf, and I'm not taking any of the lids.
Yeah. That throat, like, oh man.
Because I've purchased 300 6 quarts at one store one time. Didn't take any of the lids.
Well,
Two baskets full.
I went and bought a whole bunch for you one time because I was coming to the show late.
Yep.
And you were like, this Target hasn't been stock. I need you to stop. And I was like, okay. So I put it in the GPS and made it my pit stop on the way. And James was like, don't get the lids. I'm like, I can't fucking leave the lids on the shelf. And he's like, yes, you can.
All the time.
Do not buy them. And I was like, can we just, he's like, don't do it. Just leave it.
Make it their problem.
Because
Home Depot, one time I did a curbside, not a curbside, but a in-store pickup. And they made me take the lids, and I just walked out and set them on top of their trash can right outside the door. They wouldn't even fit. I'm like, here you go. You should have kept them in the store.
That's so crazy.
Anyways. So I want to get into some of your feeders because we had folks on earlier in the year that did the black soldier fly larva, and that was very interesting. But you do something that is definitely different than what most people are feeding their lizards, whether it be a bearded dragon or a water monitor, whatever it is. But you breed grasshoppers.
Yeah, I breed several species of grasshoppers.
How big are they?
They're good size.
Yeah, they're about the size of your palm if you want to hold out your palm.
Shut up.
And they're pretty.
And they're
bright
That's
green.
cool.
They're gorgeous. So
how long do they live?
If you were to care for it well enough and everything like that, easily 10 months.
That's cool.
And they do the whole like you know how praying mantis elegantly falls out from its exoskeleton?
Yeah.
It does the same thing.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And their the colors are like, I have a variety of colors from like bright yellows to like a Deadpool color. I have like a really neon green, like alien looking ones.
I've seen one where I guess it's the same species, just two different colors, but I've seen where it's like a dark green and a bright green in the same cage together.
Yeah, it's like a camo green and a really bright green.
Yeah.
I may be horribly mistaken here, but when we went to the Museum of Natural History, the Smithsonian,
Yeah.
it was probably 7 summers
Forever
ago. Wasn't that a grasshopper that I took, like that they put on my finger and let me hold?
Do you really think I remember that?
It was like one of my favorite pictures that I've ever taken of myself. So now I have to go.
Was it
find
green?
It had like yellows and stuff on it too, though.
Yeah, we even have this
I don't
black
think it was a
species.
katydid. I think it was a grasshopper.
Probably a big lubbers or something like that.
That's what it was. That's what
Yeah.
it was. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're typically used in science and they're easily collected, right?
I mean,
And,
it was easily.
In Louisiana, we have this giant black, the huge black.
oh, I have some of those now
Do
that
you?
are already. Yeah, we have the adults are all dead, but the nymphs have just started to hatch, and they're probably about like a good, almost an inch, and they're black with a red stripe now,
Yeah.
but they morph into this gorgeous jet black bug. I love it.
So we have this thing at camp in North Alabama on the mountain that we call a camel cricket.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they got
Those are fucking
the big
terrifying.
big round head. Yeah.
They
It's
will
the-
come at you because
They
like
don't
we
come
started.
at, stop that. You
No,
don't
no,
beat
no,
that
no.
person.
Listen, no,
Don't do
listen,
it.
because
Don't
we
do
did
it.
research.
They do it with the water moccasins.
They come at the noise. No, listen.
Go ahead. Go at it.
I did research because when they told me that, the counselors were like, they will come and chase you. I'm like, they don't chase you guys. I'm like, let's do some research. So I pulled it up. They actually gravitate to the noise to attack and startle it.
They're not.
So when you're making noise, they're trying to scare you away.
I have a hard time believing that.
Yes.
That doesn't
I'm
seem like
gonna
it's-
find
They
the article.
learned how to do it from the Black Panthers.
I'm
the
gonna
Black Panthers
shut
and
up.
and
I'm gonna find the article.
and the cottonmouth water
I'm
rattlers.
gonna find it. Is this real?
I'm thinking ecologically and evolutionary. It doesn't make sense for this small thing to chase a giant.
First of all, it's not small at
It's
all.
smaller than you. It's not you size.
When you
I
are
don't know, dude.
naked
Have
in
you
a
ever been to
shower,
Chihuahua?
it is the size of
Yeah,
a
we
pit
made that.
bull.
We made that, and we made it
That's true.
stupid.
And I remember digging random holes in my yard, and then all of a sudden there's this like little encasing, and there's this giant, whatever that is,
Yes.
just falls out of the hole, and it's all, it's not really agile, so it's just laying there flopping around.
My dad said it only happens when you step on a water moccasin nest.
Thanks.
He knew a kid in school who was water
Right.
skiing and fell into a ball.
Fell
of
in a
water
whole
moccasin.
nest of water moccasins, and he
my
died.
God.
Oh,
Oh, that one fucking movie with the horse that ruined it for everybody
Yep.
else. Anyways, what?
Talk about Lonesome Dove.
Everybody thinks now that you find water moccasins in a
Mhm.
giant nest. So what? Okay, I've got to ask. Smell compared to crickets, because everybody's used to crickets, and they are probably the worst smelling insect feeder on Earth. Where do grasshoppers compare to that?
almost no smell. Okay, so it depends on the species. Okay, some have a very very distinct smell, and the lubbers they almost
They look smelly.
when you pick them up, they kind of emit this odor, like if it was musk or something like that. And
They
you
look
can
like it. They look like when you see that
Yeah.
one guy walking towards you down the road, and you're like, "This guy's gonna smell fucking horrible." That's what
So-
lubbers look like.
So when you have a ton of those, it really smells, right? We actually don't have a lot of those at all. When we keep breeders, we keep like 6, and that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah, and then but all the other species though, even growing them in mass quantities, there's almost no smell at all. I use a lot of greens, and they devour it typically before it wilts. But let's say if they didn't, the lamp hit the wilted stuff all day, you'd get that smell a little bit, but it's not like what you think at all. Like really, really bad cricket smell or a really nasty roach bin or something, not at all.
Just so weird.
Yeah, so
Nutrition
there's-
wise, I mean, I'm assuming they're far more nutritious than a cricket.
Yeah, you so just to compare, obviously they're just so much bigger, but even comparable within the same size. So let's say 3/4 to almost an inch in size, right? The grasshopper has more meat and just protein overall in its whole body, right? And it's kind of soft to the touch, so it doesn't have a hard exoskeleton really at all. And then even the head, if you were to compare the head of a cricket or even a dubia roach, that head is a little solid ball, like right. It's a hard thing. The grasshopper, if you were to pinch its head, it's just all juice and meat. So you get a lot more coming from the grasshopper.
That's so gross.
Then they're supposed to be good for vitamin A, which for many lizards.
I mean, I've eaten a cricket before. It was in a cookie.
Mhm.
I ate it at a bug
eaten
festival.
These grasshoppers, just like I've fried them up, put them in some tacos. They were actually
So this is legit. Like it sounds like he's joking, but
No.
this is legit.
Well, if you go to parts of Asia, that's street food.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Like
And,
you buy it on a skewer and just eat it walking down the street.
just I froze them overnight, right? And then I took them out, rinsed them, cleaned them off in like some lemon water, dried them off, fried them, and then they basically became a little shrimp where the
Like just for the hell of
exoskeleton-
it is why you did this.
No, I saw because people were like, "Hey, have you eaten any of them?" It's like a delicacy where I come from. So I tried it. I tried to make some, and I followed some recipes on YouTube. I didn't even, I didn't ask anybody specific. I just looked up. All right, are these people? How are they doing it? And it's like Discovery Channel following some like,
I
old
love it.
old lady. Yeah, she's like a.
Somebody's grandma has made
She's
like
rinsing
this
them in
is the
vinegar,
family
yeah.
recipe here.
Yeah, she's
Family.
rinsing them in vinegar. But when I fried them, right, they separated from the exoskeleton, and the meat just tasted like, or the texture was like shrimp. If you were to fry
Well, they
up
say if
shrimp.
you're allergic to shrimp that you shouldn't eat them. It has to do with the shell.
The chitin in the shell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So real quick, back to Camel Crickets.
All right, so your
I found the article.
You found one article. That's not research.
No. It's in multiple articles, but
A lady
and-
dies from Camo Cricket.
and just so Dale knows, he may say smaller than a size 13 boot, but I wear a women's size 12, and I
And
guarantee
it was
you
still smaller than that.
it was bigger than my foot
Shut
that
up.
night in the shower.
Don't be that person. You're the same
It
person that
was.
saw that Black Panther across the road.
Look, you're the one who kills spiders when you're naked, so
Well, yeah. If
I'm allowed to freak out at this cricket. So there you go.
the spider thing is, the less clothes I have, the less likely they are to survive.
Well, I thought this
If I'm
thing
fully-
was coming
if
to
I'm
kill
fully
me in the
clothed,
shower
they
They
go
that
got
night.
from fright.
Well, no, they're fully clothed. They're fully clothed. I'll take it outside. But if naked, I'm sorry, you're in the wrong place at the wrong time.
All right. So, Camo crickets are often confused with spiders because of the way that they move. First of all,
Confuse them, but okay.
and they will leap at people in a self-defense mechanism that helps crickets to scare off predators.
I'm calling bullshit.
I don't know.
I can see
Call
that.
bullshit.
I think that what the bug does, it does this thing. It like
It's the way that it moves,
it does
and
this.
it.
Right.
I just can't imagine. It's not like you don't walk into a kitchen and it comes running at you from across the room.
No, if you
Like some bad horror
startle
movie.
it and it thinks you're a predator, it's gonna go at you.
Just picture some bad horror movie. He comes scurrying across the floor at you.
And
Oh,
now I'm
so-
down the Camel Cricket hole and I'm clicking on all the
Darren
other
Watson
arrows.
asked, "Did you feed them before you ate them? The grasshoppers."
Yeah, I did. I
Did
fed
you
them.
gut load your grasshoppers?
Got
They
it.
were already they demand to eat so well that I'm practically just gut loading them every day. It's not like I can't use a cheat food or a filler. It just doesn't work. They only want, because if you picture like the stories you hear about like locusts, they're just demolishing a plant or a tree or a bush in one day, right? Picture the food that I give them in handfuls. It's basically gone, Yeah. So they demand to eat so well prior to me eating them. Yeah.
That's hilarious. So do you, because obviously you have your own podcast, which is a great podcast because I've listened to it. And as James said earlier, but do you have any podcasts that are lizard or monitor related that you listen to other than your own? Or is that why you created your podcast?
You know what? I haven't had a lot of time to listen to too many podcasts.
I feel your pain on that.
Like,
See,
yeah.
James? Yeah, I'm
Like-
not the only one.
I just like even the ones that I record and they're ours, I just listen to them kind of loosely, scan through, make sure like we're not like messing up too much, or I didn't sound too horrible, or if I was explaining something, I didn't come off as a jerk. But I don't like I don't know, just sit there and listen to a bunch of podcasts all the time. Yeah, so it's a tough one. I want to listen to that lizard brain one.
Lizard
right?
brain.
Yeah.
That's
Lizard
Bill
brain.
Bradley
that's
does
Bill
that
Bradley's.
one.
Yes.
And there's
He says I don't listen to a lot of podcasts as he's part of a whole network of
I
podcasts.
know.
I
I
know.
know. I'm just the little pond.
My problem when I like reference your podcast is I'm like, yeah, it's Kai's podcast, and I know that there's a co-host, but it's the
Yeah.
same way I do with like the Reptile Fight Club. I'm like, yeah, it's Justin's hot podcast, and I could
Yeah,
never remember anybody else's co-host. And I feel
what's
horrible.
crazy? It's my boo thing, Alan, right? That's my co-host, right?
Yeah.
He came to me with everything. I mean, obviously I'm doing my part as well, but they came to me with open arms with trying to do something different with the podcast. And then we just started to brainstorm on how we'd like to approach with it, how we'd like to teach with it, and be a little bit different from some of the other podcasts. I think every podcast, has a little niche that they're awesome at or something like that, and it just sets them apart from everybody else.
I was listening to NPR, and I'd heard them when they were on the what's the other one? Oh, the Reptile Entrepreneur podcast. They were on there, and they're talking about so many people come into this making a podcast, and then within like 7 episodes, they just kind of disappear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's like littered. Like if you go search Reptile Podcast, like Apple Podcast is littered with podcasts with like 7 episodes and then nothing.
yeah.
So
I
it's
think we just hit like 26. We just recorded our 26th one, and I'm not gonna lie, we did put in a lot of work with those 25, right, that we recorded last year. But this holidays we actually gave ourselves a little break, and we had family time, and also a lot of our animals are doing a ton this year. It's just so much going on that we didn't even have time to record. So we're trying to get back onto the ball with that a little bit, having more topics and things like that. Just different stuff.
Well, I was listening to yours, and one of the interesting things you were talking about with the grasshoppers was legality stuff. I had never thought about the legalities of being able to get a grasshopper. But like in some states, because they're so, like we talked about, they're so ferocious that eating, people are horrified of them.
Yeah.
And so in agricultural states, they're horrified of grasshoppers.
Yeah. So to clarify to people, they're still not legal like that, right? I have to go through a permit to legally do what I'm doing now. And they're pretty strict about a lot of stuff on how I ship them, where I ship them, what species I have, stuff like that. My containers, my equipment, everything has to be locked, escape proof. So I had to change up a lot of stuff, and then also the demand alone for them. It's crazy. Chameleon people love the grasshoppers, and a lot of animals or imports that are trouble eaters, right, or just so shy they don't feel like they're adapting well. The grasshoppers just click for everything. So it's been not just like, I wouldn't say a hype, right, because they're still kind of new, so it sort of is a hype, right, but they carry their weight in the hype as well. They serve their purpose. A lot of animals are turning around. People are having a lot more success with some of the grasshoppers, and even myself, I find that I was feeding my Kimberly rocks before I was doing grasshoppers. I was using mice a lot more, and they would make my smaller animals faster. But the grasshoppers are a pretty good source of protein, but they also make the animals go berserk and exercise and chase after them, right? And they're less fat for sure.
Well, I was going to ask you, what would you say are the top 3 errors that people have when they get into monitors for the first time? And I would assume one of them would have been everyone feeds them freaking rodents all the time. Like that's one issue.
Yeah.
For most.
People, I would say people have their own thing, right? So you can't really blame them. They want a pet, you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes that totally yeah, I guess not to like attack anybody at all, but some people can do more harm trying to, you know, lovey-dove an animal rather than realizing what it really needs, you know.
You see that with dogs and cats too. I mean,
Right.
you see fat ass dogs and cats because people love them too much.
Right. And so, you know, you can possibly be doing harm by, you know, essentially feeding them so much like that, where it's just like a strict, just throw a rat in there and have them devour it, right? And it's the cool process. So I can also see where a beginner getting into monitors would be enticed by that as well, because I love it. You know, it's awesome. I get to tongue feed my guys, and they chase it vigorously like a dinosaur, and they hunt stuff, and it's awesome, right? But you know, when you
Turn my mic
really
off.
get into keeping them and everything like that, I'd say it's just the understanding of what they really need, rather than, you know, how you just want to have them as a pet.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And then I'd say the soil, not having enough soil, and especially for females that are, you know, mature enough. It basically, if they don't have the option to lay, a lot of times they just don't scatter. Sometimes they'll hold the eggs and they end up egg bound, and then they die their first year or two. We see that happen a lot, where there's basically not a lot of adult monitors out there, you know, compared to what's being brought in, you know.
Yeah.
They don't make it past their year or two. And man, I think some people put too much pressure on them being tame, you know, rather than being a lizard. They set themselves up for failure. So it's a plus for the lizard and a plus for you too, to kind of not try to micromanage so much, maybe, or worry about them being tamed. Just kind of get used to the animal doing its own thing, and then you trying to play off that, manipulating really what they, grasping what they like, manipulating the cage, and then having it work for you. I think the approach with monitors is a tough one for some people, you know. And so getting them to be tamed, it's not always about like grabbing them and forcing them to be handled, because they kind of hate that already, right?
Yeah.
It's like really building a relationship with them. And the enclosure can really help you out in the process of it if your approach is good, you know. Like for a simple example, I use like those drainage tubes, right? And I string them up from the ceiling of the enclosure, and I kind of have them hanging down, and it's just the elevated tube now, right? And that resembles a hollow log somewhere high up in the trees, and that's where a lot of small monitors, or most monitors, are going to stay at. They kind of tuck away in places like that, and those little small pockets are what they like. And so I apply those in the enclosure, keep the rest of the enclosure kind of bare, not so bare that they don't have anything to do, but it's more open rather than clutter, right? I'm not just throwing a bunch of logs in there and making it where the animal can just disappear, and I can't really figure out what's going on with it, things like that. I can't easily jig the tongs and get it to chase, you know, stuff like that. And when I set it up a little bit more bare, and then have just the tube where it can hide out of, it can see me because it's hiding in the tube. The entrance is facing me. I can see it. And so I'm not really worried about where it's at and things like that, and having to rip up the whole enclosure, right? When you do that and you start messing with its burrow, and it's kind of settled in, you kind of disturb its peace already. So then you set yourself back on the whole bonding thing. You just picture you're asleep and someone's just ripping your home up, you know, kind of the same idea, right? So you then set yourself a couple steps back on the whole bonding process. You kind of want to be less invasive and less disruptive, and more here, I have food. You're going to need food. So, you know, you're going to kind of tongue feed it or offer food. And maybe that's not even your first step. Your first step is just to leave food at the entrance of the burrow, and it'll do its thing. You can kind of watch it eat. It's actually not eating from you, but it has food available. the whole process of it eating satisfies you because it ate, right? And then you can work with it like that. Those are the little small threads, I guess, a part of a whole big rope that you're going to build as far as trust.
I'm definitely guilty of when I had monitors be like, I'm going to grab you and you're going to calm down and you're going to become friendly.
You do that to the dogs too.
No, the dogs enjoy it. That's
Like,
like, I definitely know better now. Like, I wish I would have taken the time to, again, try and tongue feed them, try and get them used to me, try and get them to walk out and maybe walk up to, like, I definitely did not do that with any monitor I've ever owned. It was like, oh,
Yeah.
you're angry and aggressive. I will grab you and just be, I'll hold you in dual submission.
he holds the dog and he's like, you will love me. We have a 40-pound pit bull and he's like, you will love me. And she just lays there and wags her tail. And I'm like, good Lord.
Yeah, that's different than a little different than a monitor.
Yeah. She will tolerate it. The monitor would not.
No, the monitors did not like
But
that.
we have a Euromastix and he's kind of the same way. Like if you go to get him and he
Yeah, no,
doesn't
he
want
hates to be
anything
held.
to do with you,
He hates
he's
to be
like,
held.
F you. I will, which is funny
I
because
don't
like,
even try to hold them anymore. I just feed them.
oh, really? Because he lets me like pet his back. Like I haven't been able to pick him up yet, but he'll let me like pet his back and stuff like that.
Yeah, he puffs up.
No, he doesn't do that with me.
Must like you. You don't like me.
Mm.
Oh well, fuck him.
That's how a lot of people feel. It's okay.
Uh,
So I know that you don't have time for podcasts or anything, but are there like any books that you recommend if people
what
are?
are books?
I read books, James. Some
Man, I
people.
own books.
I actually don't know how to read. I'm
Some.
just kidding.
I was like,
way to go now.
Don't do that to me. I'm like, I'm
never learned
literally
how
gonna
to
go to sleep
read.
as soon as we're done with this. Don't do that to me.
I have okay, so monitor books. All right, so there's some old school ones, I guess, because there's not a lot of new stuff, honestly. But other than like picture books, but there is Veranoid Lizard of the World, and that's I believe by Pianka, and there is the Savannah. It's called Nile Monitor, and then there's also a Savannah one, and they're kind of very similar, just paperback books, right? One's by Rob Fost, and then
I know Rob Fost.
Yeah, Rob Fost has the Nile Monitor one, right? And then the Savannah one would be by, oh my god, I'm forgetting his name and I can't because he's a legend, and he's dead. Mark Bayless.
He's a legend and he's dead.
Yeah, Mark Bay, because I can't forget his name because he's from where like I used to live, and so but yeah, Mark Bayless had the Savannah Monitor one, and not that they're like something crazy to read or anything like that, but what they cover is very important as far as what you would want to understand in some of these monitor books, basic general care, things like that. It kind of are
That's awesome.
Good keepers' minds,
I've got one monitor book. I realize I have it on my shelf. It's Monitor Lizards, Natural History, Biology, and Husbandry. It's by Daniel Bennett.
Yeah, that's another one. It's really, really good. Daniel Bennett also, he passed away, I believe, last year. And he did the Savannah Monitor stuff really extensively as well. And like he went to Africa, and they had dead ones. They opened them up so we can see stomach content and fat storage. The Savannah Monitor in the wild, in comparison to what we have in captivity, they're a lot more lean.
I would imagine.
And they eat obviously a different diet. We can't really get a readily available snail, millipede, large, I guess I would say invertebrate diet here. We have large roaches. The grasshoppers are just becoming a thing, but there's only so many people that are Savannah keepers that are buying grasshoppers.
There's so many fat Savannah monitors.
Yeah, there's a lot of fatties out there. And so it's the whole teaching people about husbandry on monitors. It's not that it's new or anything. It's just advanced to more and more people are doing it. We're getting more successes. There's animals that haven't been bred that are now being a little bit more readily bred just because of some of the stuff that we're practicing more now. You know, because a lot of stuff was just again like dying before.
Yeah, it's monitors. It's definitely changed because I've always remembered early on it was one, you keep them super hot and you feed them rodents. That was everybody kept them like oven hot and just like a heavy rodent and like red meat diet.
Yeah,
And now it's like, oh no, you can feed insects and you need to feed them. Don't feed them as much.
Yeah, I those crawfish that I buy, I don't even buy them for myself, and I pay full price for them, right? And they go right to the monitors. I don't need a single one. It's sad.
That makes me sad for you.
Yeah.
Travis Wyman is going to be listening to this, and he's like, "Damn it, Katie, I can't have those." He's allergic. Yeah, he can't. So every time I post anything about crawfish on Facebook, he's like, sad face.
Yeah, suck it, Travis.
Like, sorry, friend.
But so there was one thing I wanted to slightly bring up that was in kind of the reptile hobby news over the past couple weeks, and it's fairly monitor related because it is Kevin McCurley related. And I tried to follow it, but man, it was convoluted. He got in trouble for what's that? Got in trouble. People got mad.
Medical practices.
Yeah, got mad at him for doing some sort of small minor surgery on a boa, and he's not a vet.
Wait, I was going to say, like, he did it himself.
Yeah, it was a minor thing. I forget what it was.
All right, so they have this series where they're showing you what they do to treat wounds. You know, stuff that they spray on wounds. More so of do it yourself at home before you go to the vet, or stuff that you can do at home.
Yeah.
I mean, not okay on Facebook and on the internet. You know, they in groups they'll say if you're not a vet, you shouldn't be giving medical advice, right? You'll see people, whoever, if you want to call them a Karen or if they're just looking out or whatever, you see them saying this left and right, right? But if someone's animal is dying, I mean, obviously you're going to try to want to help, if you know, regardless of whether you have this or not, and if you have the skilled practice at home, because you know, like before there were doctors, people were still giving babies, you know, still having babies, right? So it's not that all of a sudden just because there's doctors we have babies now, right? So we've been always doing this stuff at home. We've been doing this stuff on the farm or wherever, right? And so you then get to learn and do this stuff yourself at home, like in giving yourself the animals injections by yourself, or you know, the medication, or how to treat this and that, rather than taking it into the vet every single time to do it. You know,
we had to give a snake injections after a surgery, and I had to hold her for James so that because she was larger, so he could do the injections. And every single time I was fascinated because he was just like, doop, 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 here we go. Like, I give myself a weekly injection for diabetes, and I'm like freaking out every time I have to do that to myself, and you can't even see the needle.
Yeah,
like subcutaneous is pretty easy, and intramuscular.
But like easy. you could see the needle, you could see like the whole thing. Like every single time you did it, I was just in complete awe. Like you were not freaking out. You were not, like, I was internally freaking out, and
I think
it was just so cool.
Nerds thing is just trying to cause awareness, right? And also to kind of do it yourself at home, because you possibly can on a lot of things.
Yeah.
And stuff is available for you to buy, right? It's for you to do at home. And so not that, like, you know, I don't recommend a vet at all or whatever, but there are just some things that you can do at home, man. It's going to save you a ton of money.
Well, you know? Robert and I were talking about it. One, Kevin McCurley has probably seen more sick snakes than most vets have. Like, most vets are not reptile people. And then Robert and I also, you see people getting all up in arms about them doing this minor thing on a snake. There's one hobby where those people would not be allowed to go and bitch about people doing stuff, and that's when it comes to like livestock. Livestock people do tons of shit on
dog breeders,
and no one looks at it any other way. Like, oh, okay,
yeah. If you were to go behind the scenes at like dog breeding facilities, man, it's a nightmare a little bit.
If you're told to fix, I mean, and vets will tell them, if you have a goat and you need to fix the goat, it's not a surgery. It's a rubber band that you put on his nuts, and then you're like, go run out in the yard.
That was twice a year we do that with our bull calves.
I was gonna say, that's not just goats, so that's
it's just go run till the nuts fall off.
Do you know how we freaking pulled baby calves that were breech with you tie the mom up over here and you use this device that goes against her back hips, and it's a come along.
Oh,
Hooks around the baby's legs, and you just drag it out. It's either that or they're both going to die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
see, like if you were to show that kind of stuff to these people that are pissed off about Kevin, they would be so pissed.
So you go on those comments, especially on Facebook, and you look, and it's a bunch of brand new keepers, people who've been doing this a year or less, who are experts.
Yeah.
You know, we were just discussing one a few minutes ago. You and I and our friend John Grant.
Oh yeah.
You know,
It's funny
they
though.
just got their
because-
first snake 2 months ago,
And now they have their logo.
now they have their own group and
Sweet
logo,
Jesus.
and you know,
Oh God.
their
They
snake takes
comment.
a shit. They post it in 20 different Facebook groups.
'Cause everybody needs
Look,
to
my
see it.
snake shed, and then they're the only person who likes their own photo, and it's like, fucking calm down.
Oh my star.
I know you're happy and I know you're excited, but people are already starting to go, oh fuck, her again.
It's funny though because people are the same way. Like I can't tell you how many times my brother the youngest would do something stupid and my mom's like, do we need stitches? And he's like, nope, I'll just glue it. And like he'd super glue himself back together. Or I have a coworker who was in an accident this weekend where the motorcycle that she was on laid down, and she's all kinds of course, it looks way worse now that it's 4 days after the fact, but she was like, I'm using this script. She's like, what do you recommend that I put on this? And I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, if it was me, this is what I would try. And, neither one of us we're third grade teachers. That's about as medical as we get.
Well, I watched several of the videos on this thing with Kevin McCurley, and one person spoke, well, there's one YouTuber from Europe who snakes and research or whatever, reptiles and research, who is up in arms about it. But fuck him. And then he also had a vet on, but then I watched a video that talked about this vet, and this vet is in Canada, and he's like historically known for going in when they go and raid someone's house and taking all the snakes. There was one situation where a guy had some snakes illegally, had a whole bunch of snakes legally. They allowed to come keep those. They put the snakes down at the house. The ones illegal, they killed them at the house.
Yep.
Jeez.
And then left with them. Like didn't try to find them homes. That shit doesn't fly if it's dogs. If he's got dogs there, they're not going, oh guys, let's go ahead and kill these dogs and then we'll drag them out this house. But that vet did that, and there's been other cases where he's gone and he's tried to get reptiles away from people in Canada. People have fought it and won. And so that's this one vet going, they shouldn't be do this. They didn't use any pain management, yada yada yada. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
Man,
wow.
it's nuts, man.
Tough.
Nuts.
Look, Kevin does a lot of stuff that I'm like, fuck that, that's crazy. And there's a lot of videos where I'm like, it's clickbaity. But if he's doing minor procedures on reptiles, he's been doing that shit long enough.
Right.
He knows what he's doing. He may not have a vet degree, but the stuff that he's doing, he knows what he's doing.
He's so in
yeah.
tune. Yeah. He knows them. He knows them. What's the word? Anatomically. Yeah. And most of us are just what's on the outside, and if we can set them up right, they look okay, then we don't really know all the ins and out too much. Even myself, and I've been keeping these lizards for a long time, right? I still have trouble.
So I saw that. And I was like, I want to bring that up because, people shit on him for that. Because also when it comes to monitors, he's done a lot for monitors. He's made water monitors way more popular, for one. And he does the way he calms those things down. It's pretty crazy if you watch those videos of how he calms those monitors down. He works with them so much. But yeah, Dale said Dr. Death. That's what if you look it up, that's what they call him, is Dr. Death. This vet that has it out against Kevin McCurley. Anyways. Also, I just wanted to shout out the Pint Size Reptiles podcast. Episode 2 comes out Thursday. It's on rubber boas. Anybody that's interested in rubber boas, all like 6 people across the country that's interested in rubber boas. 3 of us are on the podcast together. So the other 3 people can enjoy that. It comes out Thursday. And then In Blue's second episode will come out next week. And then it'll rotate on and off here on out. So those 2 podcasts are coming.
That's awesome.
I'm super excited about the rubber boa. Then in 2 weeks, I think everybody's gonna really like it. It's not a species one. It's not a pint-sized reptile, which is the whole theory. But we have a monk.
You are fascinated with this guy.
He's very, very interesting.
You have not stopped talking about him
He's
since
not always been
you
a monk.
recorded with
He
him.
wrote several like exotic pet and reptile books in the 80s, and then he became a monk. And it's a very interesting interview. That'll be out in 2 weeks. So everybody listen to that one.
I don't know if that was my phone.
No, I don't know.
Oh, I don't know.
And Blue will have another one out next week, right?
Yes, I think Corey Martin is the
Mhm.
one on that one.
I believe so.
So that'd be a good one too. I was going to talk about. Do you want to talk about the new things you built this week?
Sure.
You built a new arboreal cage.
I did 18 by 18 by 24 arboreal.
That's your first arboreal. Well, like this week, you just recently started building some cages.
Mm-hmm. I'm sitting here waiting on heat tape, and so well, shit. I have all this PVC sitting here. I might as well build something that doesn't take heat tape.
Yeah.
So we built some cages.
I went and built some cages on Sunday.
Yep.
Built 2 4-footers.
And then today I designed for a guy. Took me like 4 hours to get it designed, but basically it's 47 inches wide and it's 3 separate enclosures. It's 47 by 18 by 30. Yeah.
Like chameleon cages? What is he?
Day geckos.
And then divided
It's
equally.
got 3 doors.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. So I'm going to probably build it tomorrow.
It's quite a cage.
Mm-hmm.
30 inches tall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of cage.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be cool.
That'd be neat. I also realized I ordered a thermostat and heat panels for the 2 cages we made, and I don't know how this happened, but I looked up the UPS thing today, and apparently they're going to Pineville. Like that, in any case, that's our old house in Louisiana that we're no longer at. So,
Are they really?
Oh, good thing.
I was
Katie's
it's a good
parents
thing. Well, not only that, but I'll be there on the
the
24th.
thermostat. I found out that the heat panels are on back order. We're waiting for them to come in, and I'm trying to switch them down to a different size. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
They may or may not. Hopefully, they get here before my new snakes get here at the end of the month.
Yeah.
If not, then I will have to, I don't know, buy heat panels at Conroe, I guess. But
I'll figure it out.
yeah, so that's all.
Lone Star, do you ship out of country?
I don't.
That is
I don't because
expensive
in order
as hell.
to export, especially to Canada, every single component has to be made in the USA.
Really,
And that's pretty much impossible to source everything made in the USA these days.
that's crazy.
That is.
What was I listening to? I was listening to one of the new horticulture podcast, and they had a group on who was making a new type of cage, and they were talking about the price of like just shipping containers going from like $2,000 a shipping container
To
to like
15.
$20,000 a shipping container.
Yeah, I think these look, James Bergoli says he has heat panels.
I already ordered some, but I may end up getting them from you.
I think they were 16,000 is what each shipping container cost this time on this new order we did.
That's crazy.
And then the shipping went up to over 20 grand just for the shipping per container.
Yeah, and everybody's upset because prices are getting raised here and there. But I mean,
I was talking to a friend of mine today that's building a barn dominium. And when he was getting all the financing lined up first part of last year, the quote he got for the spray foam, I think it's 5,500 square feet, 21-foot walls. Also doing the roof to do the spray foam, it was like 14,000.
Yeah.
Well, he called him the other day to have him come in. They're like, hey, we have to give you a new quote. Materials are up like 900%
Jesus.
in that time. It was over 60 grand.
Fuck.
He said, I only paid 48,000 for the shell of the building. But he said the whole building is designed around being spray foamed, so I have to do it.
It's got to be done, or else you'll freeze to death in there.
Yeah, well, there's other ways to insulate them, but the way this building is designed, it's designed to be spray foamed.
Gotcha.
So he's got to do the spray foam, and he's going to have to come out of pocket for that. Luckily, he can afford it.
Yeah,
but that's a big hit. That's a huge hit.
That's a huge hit, especially when it's more than your actual building.
My sister, she took a receipt from HEB from April of last year and went and shopped it yesterday. It was $165 in April, and it was almost $300 yesterday for the exact same items. It's crazy. I
know we talk about it every week, but you see it pop up on post because someone was complaining about sea serpents prices going up. I'm like, that's he had to. It's that, or you go out of business.
It's not going to stop either. It's
glad I got my incubator when I did.
Yeah, it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better.
Yeah,
it's pretty scary.
Yeah,
lovely.
I've
All
seen annual prices for normal stuff that would typically go up every 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff, yeah.
That's crazy. All right. I'm done.
Me too.
I'm it. I gotta go pee. I know I'm calling it quits 'cause I gotta pee, but I gotta pee. It's Kai, if you want,
you fuss
What?
at me when I do that.
yeah, well, Kai, if you want to get a hold of you and hit you up for stuff, what's the best way?
Easiest place would be Facebook, just Khai Phan, KhaiPhan.
You say that. I tried to tag you in a post I made today. There's a lot of Kai fans, and none of them came up as you. And I was like, well, I guess I'm not tagging them in here. But you're easier to find if someone searches you, and then if you're a reptile person, you probably have a friend that is friends with Kai.
Yeah.
So if you find Kai Phan and you share a friend, it's probably him.
I have a mangrove monitor on my shoulder. I mean, I'm like lizarded out on my page, so you can't really miss it.
But yeah, so they can reach out and they can get some monitors since you have tons of babies in the incubator all the time.
Typically, yeah. Right now is the lowest number because I'm kind of at my chill point, but still, there's still a few eggs in there. But come summertime and spring, I'll have quite a few more.
That's awesome. And then Robert, if they want to get a hold of you, lsreptileracks.com. Hit them up. You'll be doing flat packing soon.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to add all those enclosures to the website.
Yeah, 4-foot
Probably
cages,
tomorrow.
2-foot cages, 3-foot cages.
Yep, 6 foot. Yeah, a little bit of everything.
That'd be awesome. If you want to get us, we are the Reptile Gumbo podcast on Instagram and Facebook and at gmail.com. Also, remember to listen to our other podcast on the Reptile Gumbo network because I'm not original and I stole that idea from the other two people that decided to make a network. But you got the In Blue Reptile podcast. Give them a listen. They have their first episode out with Justin Kabilka from last week, and then they'll have one coming next week. And then you've got Pint Sized Reptile podcast, which you can find our first intro episode. And then again, we will have a new episode on rubber boas coming out this Thursday, which we're super excited about because we love rubber boas. And we're on Apple now and Google and all of them. You can find us everywhere. So do that. And don't forget our giveaway. We're giving away at the end of the month a replacement lid for an Exoterra cage. So it's that PVC, allows you to mount stuff to it. It's really awesome. Go check out Focus Cube on their website. They have tons of different sizes too. If you like the idea, but you don't have a big Exoterra cage, they do have several sizes to fit the cage you have, especially if you're like a dart frog person. It'd be great for holding in humidity and stuff like that. So thank you all for listening. Kai, if you'll hold around, but thanks for being on the show. That's it. Good night.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, that was